Good evening, and welcome to Lord Gugu's stream. Tonight's performance of musical theater is good, actually, will run approximately 90 minutes with one intermission. And tonight, the role of guest will be played by Alex KLINER. Please take this time to note the emergency exits, silence your cell phone, and go home and start the screenplay you've been kicking around. You'll never live with yourself if you don't. And enjoy musical theater is good, actually.
Musical theater is good, actually. Musical theater's actually good. Oh, we're back for we're back for another one. I almost didn't do the thing, and it's fine, Back. You can hear me. It's great. I'm a Twitch affiliate now. So I think there's sound alerts. Actually, I didn't check. Let me check this real quick. There should be one sound alert. Maybe it's not active yet. Okay. It's fine. It's not showing up, and it's fine. Like, not even a big deal. We're not going to worry about it right now. But I did add a sound alert. And it is me singing the Defying Gravity version of the theme song. Pretty sure nobody's actually watching right now, so it's fine. But you watching this later on the VOD or on YouTube, you're just as special to me as any live viewer. So never you fret. But enough of this. My guest is waiting patiently. And it's time to bring him out. We have a lot to talk about. And oh boy, can we talk. There's my AC. Everybody give a shout out. My AC coming on for a second. Our guest tonight is a comedy writer and music producer, co-host of the still yet to be renewed for a season 2 Supergroup podcast on the Earwolf Network. One of my oldest and best friends, even though sometimes he makes me walk 20 minutes in 110 degree heat index to get a bubble tea, which is a drink that I don't particularly enjoy, giving me dehydration and diarrhea. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite people, or shrimp, Alex KLINER. Hey, there he is.
Hi, buddy.
Yes.
Hi.
I had to do it to him. I had to do it. I had to drop in the bubble tea story.
Oh, I'm going to need you to, as quickly as possible, go ahead and get over that. But you're going to have to go ahead and get over the bubble tea.
Alex and I, at one point, were talking about doing like a true crime style podcast.
Yes.
Like Serial or whatever, where we both like did like a Rashomon style storytelling of this one time. It was just a particularly traumatic moment in my life because it was the day after Donald John Trump had accepted the Republican nomination, and he gave his insane speech, and I was like, oh, this is kind of a nightmare.
Particularly
that seems like it might happen. No, I'm just saying I was in a fragile place.
And it was summer, and we were in Chicago, and I asked Bobby if he wanted to go get a bubble tea, and the bubble tea place was about half a mile away from my apartment, and we walked to it and back. And if you hear Bobby tell the story, I almost murdered him, and he was brought totally against his will. It was
like a 20-minute walk.
A little upset with himself that he agreed to take a walk with his friend.
It was too hot.
It was too darn hot, buddy. It was too darn hot.
Musicals. That's a musical.
Yeah.
That's a song from musicals.
That's from a different one.
That's from Kiss Me Kate. I was in that. Too darn hot. Too darn hot, even.
Laura Dernhot. I was in KMK.
When were you in KMK? High school?
High school.
Who did you play in Kiss Me Kate? Were you one of the gangsters?
No, I forget. It was like the girl's dad or something. It was like a lot of small parts.
That's one of the ones that we might have had the same track, Alex, because I played Baptista.
Okay.
and Harry.
That is the name, yeah.
Yeah, that was, yeah. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So if you don't know Alex, he's one of my oldest and best friends. We did go to college together, along with Drew Han in the chat. Hello, Drew.
Thank you, Drew, for joining us.
Oh, wow. It's because this stream is intended for mature audiences, Drew sees a Trojan ad right when he tries to tune in. So, I mean, this show, I think, will get you sexy. This show will get you in the mood. It's an effective aphrodisiac. So... Anyway.
Yeah. Let's get horny. Everyone, it's Saturday night. It's time for horny.
Horny for musical theater. Alex and I
horny for plays.
Have known each other since, I would say that would be fall 2004 when we first met. This is all in a classic Goo, the very first Goo stream, in fact, where we did an interview. We kind of went through our friendship. But that was far back enough. That's no longer available. But you know what? Maybe I could put that one up on the YouTube's channel as well. I just haven't.
Only if you want to.
You know, I think what's going to happen is, especially after this episode, which is going to be like legendary, people are going to demand it. So, in the chat, let me know as you're watching this. Demand I upload the original Goo stream, and I what I'll have to do though is I'll have to like do some editing because I want to show what a shit show it was, like the first 25 minutes where you couldn't hear you or me, or I didn't know what the fuck to do, and it was very funny. And it took like literally like almost a whole 30 minutes just to be able to have the conversation. And so I just I think I'm doing better now. Look at me, I got a green screen, it looks okay. Like, sound worked, first try.
You're absolutely killing it. I mean, it's just it gets more and more of a professional production. It's a feature, not a bug. That's right, Drew. And happy birthday, Drew Han.
OMG. We're going to sing. We're going to sing to him. We're going to do it.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. No, Drew, don't unsubscribe. We're singing to you. Dear Drew Han.
Drew Sparkle's hand. Happy birthday.
Oh, it's your birthday, Drew. You're gonna like
everybody's favorite thing is sing-alongs over Discord. They always go great. That's why it's a great time for musicals and performing them right now.
Yep. It is a golden age of singing to your friends.
Yep. It's really great. And I'm really just happy to have you here. Alex and I have performed in at least one musical. Was there another, besides You're in Town, was there another one we performed in together? Because then Alex also directed me in The Who's Tommy.
That's right. I don't know if we've done many musicals together. We've done plays.
Well, there's one big one. The origin of our friendship. The very, very beginning. Go back to the very beginning, a very good place to start musicals.
What are you talking about, Bobby?
Oh, a certain wig in a box, of course, when you were my music director.
And the Inch. That's right. Yeah.
When I was a wee baby.
Yeah. Well, that was a play with music, you see. No, don't do that face.
He's gonna be the next emote. There is so I am a Twitch affiliate now. If you're just joining, and there is an emote if you subscribe. But honestly, like only if you really just want to set money on fire. I don't really want people to do it, but you can. And in theory, there's a sound alert, but I don't know how to make it the panel show up for it. I don't really understand it. So yeah, that's just it's fine.
Yeah.
But the sound alert
is to be on the stream.
Yeah. Well, let me talk about me some more, Alex. Hang on a second. So another thing about when I was with Alex. No. But Alex has also, you've done a lot of music direction. You were, for a time, with the Second City doing their touring company as a music director. You've also done music production. You've written music, and we're going to talk about at least one comedy musical today, and you've written a lot of comedy music, so I'm really excited to pick your brain about that.
Oh, great.
But we're gonna get way more into your background for everybody in the same way that everyone does, of course, on this show. Everyone knows it. They love it. Here it comes. It is time for the musical quiz. Oh, God, the layer here. Oh, God.
I've been looking forward to this.
Here we go. What statement do you agree with more, Alex? Musical theater is the pinnacle of human achievement as the purest and most complete synthesis of all art and performance. Or musical theater is an abomination before God and man and destroying us as a society and a human race. Which is more true in your opinion?
Lean towards...
I honestly don't know which way you're going to go with this.
I'm saying it's trending B, in my opinion. It's trending B, and we can get into that, but...
well, let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's the worst thing that ever happened. It is going in a bad path towards B.
Right, but the path it's on,
in my opinion,
isn't the art form itself, though, necessarily. Is it responsible?
No. Well,
yeah, bits from Drew. That's my first. Drew, those are my first bits.
Thank you. Bits, Drew. This is wonderful news for everyone. Okay, the reason I think it's trending B, no, you're doing great, Drew. You know exactly what you're doing. I think that it is, you're right, the art form itself, there are several questions as to what musical theater actually is and what it should be and where its delineations from other art forms are. I would say that it is going down the path wherein the most culturally important musicals, in that they're the most culturally identifiable, are either made with profit motive high at the top, like Disney, and they're rehashing old ideas, or they are used to sully the Democratic Party right before two presidential elections against Donald Trump in a row, and they are a tool of the ruling class to have real people make Democrats look like idiots. So for those reasons, we are heading towards an abomination. That said, there's nothing wrong with storytelling through music.
We love it, and when done well.
And we don't,
In fact,
but the state of musical theater is not one I find
but you acknowledge
particularly interesting.
And I completely totally see and agree with most of what you're saying. But you agree that in musicals now there's good musicals coming out now. They're just as able to there be a show that somebody comes and says, no, this is a really good one, you go see it and you get your mind blown. There's just that potential as much there. And something that I'm really proud of is that I did sell you on and it wasn't even much of a hard sell. You were on board because you knew the Mamma Mia 2 train when I showed you Mamma Mia 2 and we watched that together.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I was glad.
That's what does good mean, Drew asks, and I think that's an important question.
Good means,
I don't know. It's
good means you actually, good honestly to me means you as you're watching it have the thought, this is good. That's all it means to me. You while you're watching
when you're sitting in a chair in a dark room surrounded by strangers
or listening
very strict rules,
or listening to it and imagining it or remembering it, there's plenty of ways that But right, that's where it will most likely come to life in the most potent way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, I was wondering if there's a distinction there between listening to a original cast recording and then seeing it live. Are you actually consuming musical theater if you're just listening to a soundtrack?
Right. Well, you're engaging with a part of it, is what I would say. But right, you're not seeing the full thing.
But just like reading a script isn't seeing the play.
Right. Well, and part of what I think it is that doing a musical at any level is such an ordeal. It's like such a labor of love. And you know,
more
like,
trouble than it's worth usually.
Yeah. Yeah, actually. But then it is also high risk, high reward as well, because the shows that really sell tend to be musicals that people really want to see, but it is a lot of work to get them up. And so I think that there's a part of it that respects that when you're listening to it, that like how much, and so like you get excited about the work, just like if you were reading a play or something, reading a script and get really excited about it, except it's like on a whole other level, because there is like a thing, like music that you can listen, like a whole like other way that you can engage with it and bring it to life, I don't know, for yourself on some level. I don't know. I think I've lost the plot. Let's move on.
No, I mean, I gave a deliberately trolly kind of answer, though I can defend it. But I will say,
I'm so glad that
when
you are the first.
Right things line up, musical theater. That I'm what?
You're the first to choose B, but I'm so happy somebody finally did. So now other people can feel safe to pick it as well. Like, they're not going to offend me. I want people on this stream that will say B. I want people on this stream that without hesitation are like, it's definitely B, and that's actually how I feel. And I want to have that. I want that person on here. I know you're not all the way there, but I definitely.
No, it's trending B. It's heavily trending B in my estimation. Though, when the right conditions are in place, it does have the absolute potential to be transcendent, like beyond any form.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's you know. And you and I are people that we've always bonded with our interest in theater about the power of spectacle in theater. I think is something, and musical is always really tied into that. But like the shows that I think of. That have really stayed with me, had a real big level of like spectacle, like one that's not a musical, but we both have seen productions of, I think is Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, just one of the most incredible theater like stagings and tech and everything about it. And it's because it has such this, it's like on this huge scale, which says not to shit on, you know, an intimate show that takes place in the kitchen with like two like women after their brother died or something. I don't know. Night Mother.
Is that a show?
Night Mother is valid. Okay. Marcia Norman, playwright of Night Mother, wrote the book for The Secret Garden. So, musicals. I only know
musicals.
That. I only know that because I was in that show.
Well, I mean, you look at how big a song makes reality, right? Like, you know, when people start singing automatically, you're in this new elevated space where the rules of, you know, human behavior and physics and everything go out the door. So you can express that on stage with, you know, literally and stuff like that. So, I mean, musicals require spectacle.
Well, yeah,
you have to invent a universe and a visual vocabulary to justify the breaks in reality of people singing whenever they feel like it.
Right, and I think that that's why there's such a high potential for musicals to be bad, is because it's so much easier to make that feel unearned or like not well integrated, like the way that it comes together. Anyway, Alex, more about you. What is your musical theater archetype? Like musical theater character archetype? Is it the ingenue, the villain? That's my vote. The sidekick / friend. Character actor / comic relief / old. Or other, and then specify.
I will tell you that historically throughout my long and storied career on the stage, that I have been used in comic relief / old, or comic relief / old / fat, or something like.
Oh, do I need to add fat? Do I need to add fat to that list? No, I won't.
I mean, you know, just like, oh, you know, here's a high school kid that, you know, we can put in a large suit that reads old, draw some lines across his forehead. I have been used in those ways. However, I've also been given the opportunity to play villain occasionally, and I find that is I want that for me more.
In the musical that we did together, Alex played a villain quite controversially, but we won't get into that. We're not getting into that tonight.
Well, a villain's lackey.
A villain. Well, he's on the villain side, ultimately.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what you'd cast for yourself as well. I mean, like, that's what people have cast you. But, like, I also like people to think about, and I don't really know what I mean about it, but I keep saying this phrase: the musical of your life. If your life, my life a movie, your life a musical, what character are you in this musical?
What character am I in my own musical?
I guess it's a shitty way to put it, because you're just going to be like the ingenue or protagonist, right? Like, that's if it's your musical.
Thank you for calling me an ingenue the first time anyone ever has, and I
will I've always considered you an ingenue, Alex. Don't worry.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think, yeah, I mean, villain's been a really popular choice so far. We've done like enough of these now. I can start to spot the trends that people pick.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because villains are fun, right? Like,
especially in a musical.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The villain's
song. You have a heavy hand in like the action. Yeah, you usually get to do something like big and dramatic. You usually have like a number where you can explain why you're so horrible.
The most fun
and
costume.
What you intend on doing. Yes. Yeah. I've always looked good in like flowy black robes, so I feel like, you know, some sort of like demonic priest feels right for me.
I don't think I've had to play directly a villain. I was kind of a villain in Secret Garden, but it wasn't like, I mean, sort of. He's like the antagonist in a way. But I would love it because it's one of my favorite things, an opportunity for bizarre facial hair. So I'm down.
Yes.
I'm on board.
Yeah.
Always. So this is a good question. How do you musical theater? And right now, like when we were in college, a lot of us would listen to musical theater, and I think maybe you were still and it was selective what you would like Rent and Who's Tommy and stuff like that. Like there were musicals that you would put on, but like today in 2020, how often are you compelled to watch a musical, listen to a musical, or seek one out to see? I mean, I know like now it's impossible, but in the more recent history, how do you tend to musical theater, if you musical theater at all?
I will say that lately my involvement in musical theater has been in producing it, which sounds like such a dickhead answer, but I find myself doing it more than turning to it for my own entertainment. So that is the case with me. But I have a lot of really wonderful musical theater, and by wonderful I mean insufferable, impossible to be around musical theater friends.
Who?
And they insist, no, I'm not naming any names. Wow. Bobby Libby has held me hostage and forced me to watch YouTube videos about musical theater and wonders why I am no longer hype on the art form.
I made you listen. One time you came to visit me, and I made you listen to tracks from a certain banned word in the chat original cast recording at that time. I'm outing myself. Right. I'm calling myself out. Listen.
Yeah, well,
we all have past.
It's important. It's important to reflect on your own misdoings. I certainly have. I like it.
You never have.
I like doing, like, I like, just because, you know, I've come up music directing for the last 10 plus years. I mean, truly, like, a long time. That, you know, I do like playing shows. Like, I like being in the pit. I like teaching the music. I like I like it when I'm in it. I couldn't imagine.
I just got to be in it, man. I just got to be in it.
I got it right. Well, I'm
put me in, coach.
That, but when you're a performer, as we are, you know, it's hard to sit by and watch someone else perform at you because you're like, God damn it, I want to do this. God damn it, I want to be up there.
I think this is.
And it's because we are sociopaths,
right?
But like with pure heart.
But so you just love performing it, and so that's primarily how you. But you don't really have never in recent history have been like thought about wanting to listen to or watch a musical, or I mean, you've come to see me in musicals, actually. I guess maybe that might be some of the last musicals you saw.
Some of the last live musicals. And I was producing a musical in Los Angeles that was supposed to open Friday, March 13th.
And the musical did pass away.
Decided that it would not open on Friday, March 13th.
Friday the 13th.
To, novel coronavirus. Yeah.
Friday the 13th. That's actually one of the... Because usually Friday the 13th is bullshit, but that's like that one was real. That was a real one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was like, we made that call 1 week before the state of California would have made that call for us.
Right. Yeah. And now it's just as bad. It's actually far worse, and they just nobody gives a shit. They probably are just gonna let them have it soon anyway. They're just like, fuck it, people are gonna die, whatever. We're giving up. All right, very happy note. Let's move on. Alex, I know you don't. So you perform them, and then you get a really unique insight on this, and I think I might know what some of your answers are going to be. What musicals should be more popular or beloved, and which should be less popular?
I don't feel like I have a strong enough grasp on all of the musicals that there are. Like, musical theater people like know their Sondheim, and they know their classics. And
you've never given him a fair shake. You've never given him a fair shake.
I've seen him. I've seen you perform him several times.
That's true.
And I will say that I have, every time I see it done, I'm like, I get this. But I never grew up seeing Sondheim, and I only was like doing old, like, easy to get the rights to, easy for like husky boys like me to be able to play someone's dad in high school and shit like that.
Right?
So I only I've done Kismet, I've done Kiss Me Kate, I've done Godspell twice.
We love Godspell. We both played
Godspell.
Judas, correct?
Yes, it's a good role. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. But I will say that I think musicals that should be like more liked. I
mean, come on.
I hope people. What, the Who's Tommy?
Well, no, I was gonna say.
I feel like people laugh at that one, but that is like one of my.
Another one that people laugh at, that I've laughed at.
Oh my God, Titanic by the Maury Eston score is phenomenal. It is, to me, that's like great because you just have people like shout singing lists of archaic terms for the first 15 minutes. It has like a 100,000 piece orchestra. Like, it is the biggest shit, the biggest sound. No one's trying to get that much emotion across. There's no nuance to it. It's just like, this is how big a boat is. We have a big boat now.
Now like, calling first class passengers. Go to the galley, please, or whatever the fuck they're saying.
Yeah. 46,000 tons of steel. I mean, it's wonderful. I would fucking love to do that show. I think Titanic. If you can stand Titanic, you fundamentally have a stomach for musical theater, because it is.
Well, Maury Eston, he can write, he can compose music. He's good with composing the music. Sometimes the lyrics and other qualities have come across very ridiculous. And
you just stick those words over whatever notes you write. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's another instrument.
Yeah, another, like, he also did Nine, which is kind of a really weird show. But the one of my favorite things about Titanic was in college, you loved Titanic, and you would sometimes listen to it, and then you got your hands on, you downloaded or something, the German cast recording of Titanic, and then I remember listening to it and being like, this is really good, because when you don't know what they're saying, it's like, ooh, wow,
that's right.
Like, these like notes, like these chords are really good.
Yes, it is so. well composed.
And then you listen to it in English, and it's like
opera.
show me that ship I want to go. Here goes the ship. It's time for ships. It's time for ships we go. It's our Titanic.
Ship to the bigger ship than this one. It's a second ship larger. It's a second ship. Yeah, no, it's very good.
For the maiden voyage. For the maiden voyage.
Dun, 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 dun. Get us all aboard.
I tried on Kate's birthday stream early on it. I tried to get Jack to play that, and he did play a bit of it. He played like the very beginning of from the beginning the man has prepared, or whatever. He's like, from man's great works for once inevitable, or whatever, like that whole opening thing. Impossible. And then he was like, skip ahead, and he like skipped ahead to the worst point in the opening. Literally when the woman's like, and that's the blah 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 blah, and she's like gossiping or whatever, and she's like, the French Riviera, and she's like, it's literally
He's only 19 years old and married man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like her. And so that's when then Jack started just like going to Wikipedia pages, like the Wikipedia page for September 11th, and just started like singing the Wikipedia page. So and that's what it feels like.
No, truly, like getting like through the Titanic opening, it's like 15 minutes of just like so much shit about the boat.
It's really long. I found a really good slime tutorial of that. I'll send it to you if you want to watch it.
Thank you. And I've recently learned that slime tutorials.
No, we don't. To make slime.
Learn to make slime.
That's right,
Bobby.
That's what I thought.
Learn to make it up.
Let me
I wasn't gonna
see that slime.
Shit about a boat, the musical, exactly.
Sorry, I'm making their shit about a boat, the musical. So yeah, Titanic. And then what should be less popular, Alex? I think I know some of your answers.
I'm not going to go for the low-hanging fruit, but I do just worry about a show so ahistorical and broadly the
hagiography of slave owners. The hagiography of slave owners with having the minor tweak of having the slave owners be played by actors of color is strange.
That said, I will not evoke the H slur on your news program, and I will say that let's go with what musical do you think we could retire?
Well, another
if you never
one
saw again, fine.
Another one that you hated in college, I remember, because it came out in college and it was big, and you'll recall that I like went to casting calls for it.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, and I worked with you. Yeah, Oklahoma's one, Drew. That's not the answer. It is. But I don't want your fandom to get mad at me.
Especially because Kate loves it, and if Kate is watching this later, which I don't know if she will, but she will love you because of what you like, your praise of the Titanic musical and going to watch it. So be careful.
It's one of her favorites. Brilliant musical. I will say I did not care for Spring Awakening, and I've not seen it. I've only interacted with the soundtrack, so that is an unfair reading. Something about the choreography that was so celebrated. I don't know. Maybe I'm such a.
It was really actually. It kind of was revolutionary, like, and it's really been influential. It
was a lot of stomping around. Yeah. It was a lot of stomping around. It was a lot of angsty motions. I will say, Purple Summer, beautiful. The kind of largo, legato. Violin counterpoints to the melodies are lovely. But like my junk
is good, actually.
It happened. Did you hear that? You probably didn't hear it.
I heard it. It came through.
Yes, good.
No, I heard it. Why don't you believe me that I've heard it? I did hear it.
Okay, sound alerts. Now I don't know what's happening with the emotes. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with that. Maybe they still have to be approved.
That was Bobby, Drew. That was Bobby singing "Defying Gravity."
Yes. That was me singing the theme song, one of the theme songs to the show. So I do, Drew. If you haven't watched the show in a while, basically what I do is every week I sing the theme song is the name of the show sung to a different show tune. So that one is Defying Gravity, available for 50 bits. Please enjoy it.
So get your bits worth. Pay with your bits. Give Bobby the bits.
I need it. No, I do not need it. Please do not. If you can't.
He's very wealthy.
No, I'm not.
Doesn't want your bit money.
That's not true either.
He's very comfortable financially.
It's a weird time to be asking anyone for money.
I know he has Alexis.
That was a gift.
He doesn't want. He lives in the most expensive place in the country, and has two children.
It's not the most. Come on, San Francisco's more expensive. Let's be real.
I like to call it San Francisco. Okay, because of all the perverts.
Those sicko libs like Nancy Pelosi.
That's right. All Nancy Pelosi. Okay, he did it again.
Let's go to the last question, which I've changed from your other one, which I liked as well.
I did notice that. Yeah.
And it's just we're gonna cycle. We're gonna.
No, I get it. Everyone's going to say cups of coffee. I was going to say cups of coffee.
Right. Okay. So that's fine. So that's a bonus question then. In the musical of your life, what are you singing as your 11 o'clock number? It doesn't necessarily have to be a show tune. It can be just like a song, because of course it could be a jukebox music. Could be a jukebox musical. And Drew, that's the whole point of that's what Twitch is.
Yep.
Is at least the Twitch that I watch is paying bits to interrupt the conversation. That's the whole idea. So what's your 11 o'clock number that you're singing in the musical that's like, this is Alex's life?
Okay. I'm going to say, and I have this has nothing to do with the narrative of the song. I can just say that I've been listening to this song a lot in the shower and like mouthing along to it and doing like very gentle shower choreography to Bad Friend by Rina Sawayama. It is a bop. And I think that could be a case where
is this directed at me?
No.
Being a bad friend?
Yes. No.
I was just going to say, I'm like incredibly aroused now just picturing you dancing in the shower. So don't know how I'm going to go on with the rest of the stream.
We don't want to have a tumble. We don't want to have a tumble and break anything.
That's true.
Okay, we're getting up there in years.
Maybe it's, support yourself. Just to be safe. Just for safety.
I have the stability bars in there, and I just kind of do light, gentle hip work. And I'm going to go with Bad Friend.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like, and not because I'm a very good friend.
You are a very good friend.
But I like singing that song. So maybe in a moment of self-reflection, at 11 o'clock, here's my own personal shit to overcome before I get the power and win the game and defeat, the antagonist or something. I will have a moment of clarity and see what I could be doing better.
You just lost the game. You just lost the game. If Nick was here, he'd think that was funny, but he's not going to watch this. Just kidding. So to conclude from this quiz, in the time of COVID, horrible injustices, creeping fascism, Alex has said that he thinks musical theater is what's destroying us as a society, and that's just what he's chosen to come on here and say. And
well, right now it's trending that over saving society. If you're going to force this dichotomy,
I know, but see, it's like I want to set a trap of making it's fine, say it, and then just get really guilt people after.
Yeah.
So that's
I would love to get death threats for appearing on this and say that I'm troubled by musical theater.
For sure.
I want
the fandom. The Goo heads are
get those toxic Goo heads.
A toxic fandom.
At me, bitches. Oh, horrible fandom.
Oh.
And why won't Bobby do anything about them?
I know. I need to speak up more against the bros, against the Goo bros.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Alex. Let's move right on to and I don't know where this is going to pop up, but yeah, here it is. A completely original segment I came up with. I did all the art for this logo myself, and I came up with the name. It has no relation to any other property. My favorite musical. You know, just a regular segment about telling us about your favorite musical. And Alex, tell us what musical is that you've come to discuss for this segment.
I'm a rent boy, and I know
he's a rent boy.
I'm a rent boy. I have been since I was 11. Huge rent boy. Just renting myself left and right for the older businessmen.
Wow, so brave.
Yes, thank you. I think I'm here to defend rent's honor as it has fallen out of vogue as of late. And to argue that if you think that you have a bad, you have a bad brain.
I certainly don't think it's bad. I mean,
no.
And like, this is like, when we talk about musicals on this show, like we have to talk about Rent, and it is one of the shows that, and in fact, I was thinking about what I would compare it to is a musical that came along and actually changed the trajectory of all musicals, actually, is that you've started seeing a lot more wanting to appeal to that rock, or just like actually kind of any like attempt to drag musical theater kicking and screaming into recognizably sounding like pop, like music that you might hear not in a musical.
Right.
Is extremely celebrated, and also I feel is kind of a low bar, because sometimes the stuff that people say is like, no, this is like it still is a rock musical, like it is very much a musical, but I just completely lost my point. But the musical that I would compare it to, actually, another 4-letter musical, Hair.
It's Hair.
Yes, that came around.
I think Rent picked up where Hair left off.
Yes,
in nudging that story of a
but I
cursed bohemian community.
I will say that Jonathan Larson, of course, the sole writer of Rent, which, I mean, props. That's a long show. Tragically passed away before it actually officially opened on Broadway, while it was still in previews. So we great. Brilliant. He only got to do this and one other show, which is really more like a kind of workshop-y kind of show. It's not even, I don't consider it a full show. Tick, tick, boom. It's got some good songs in it. Come to Your Senses, recommend. That's a good one. But he is more, I think, I want to say respectful. Like when Hair, there's an apocryphal story about right after Hair opened on Broadway, and it like got a rave in the New York Times or whatever, of like Richard Rodgers and like Jules Stein or like whatever, like old timey composers. I forget. It's like a few of them, like in the street, like looking like, they just found out like JFK was assassinated again or something. Like it was like a tragedy, because like it was so divorced from anything that's like rooted in, the history of whatever, of musicals and of how that was composed. And I think Jonathan Larson, I mean, he's a big acolyte of my main man, Stevie Sand. Hang on, let's do a brief Sondheim vision. Just here, we'll get him here just to say hello. Hey, Steve. He there
he is.
He was kind of like a mentor to him as well, Stephen Sondheim, and I think he had like a fellowship or something through him as well. And so just saying, Stephen Sondheim.
Damn.
So it's like but it's also kind of interesting, because then it also bridges that divide between like completely counterculture, like nudity, trying to freak out the squares, like happening kind of event, anti-theater, like, and not a full linear storyline, more like a bunch of skits almost, and so like there's that extreme, and also like the very commercial, very structured, very like formula musical, and it certainly isn't that, but I also think that it kind of brought this sort of this musical into that very able to be commercialized world, which also had a lot to do with Andrew Lloyd Webber as well. That's my take on Rent. But
Yeah,
give us your history
good.
with Rent. Tell me about how did you first come to Rent? How did you first hear about it? When did you first learn about Rent?
I think it was probably on like the Rosie O'Donnell show.
Yes.
When they came in and they did Seasons of Love.
Mm-hmm.
And I had started acting, in like community theater and shit when I was 8. I don't know how old I would. I mean, would it come out in 94? Right.
Yes.
Well, whatever.
Right.
I would have been, 9 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't know that like anything could sound like that.
1996.
And be done. 96. Okay, so
April
I was
29th, 1996.
I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had been doing theater for a couple years. And I was in Camelot before that. You know what I mean? Before I would have ever heard of Rent.
Right.
So I knew of theater as especially musical theater, as like these very like stately old things, and like with this very specific way of sounding.
Right,
and
especially
then,
doing like a
Rent.
Camelot, which is like Lerner and Lowe, like classic, like right, old timey Robert Goulet on the soundtrack musical, right?
I would have done Camelot twice probably at that point. By the time I heard Rent for the first time,
he was a professional little boy in Camelot.
Word gets around. I also played Piglet twice in Winnie the Pooh. In the
Alex could have
Western
been
Maryland.
Alex would have been the biggest child star ever, but he had a very traumatic experience on the way to an audition. Do you want to tell that story?
It was my. Of course, I'd be happy to. I had gotten an audition at the Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., where President Abraham Lincoln was famously shot in the head.
By a character I played in a musical.
This is cool.
Just saying.
And so that's how it all comes full circle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my mom was driving me in the Volvo station wagon, and all of a sudden all the traffic comes to a stop. And you can very easily see that just a few cars in front of us, there is a horrible traffic accident. And they slowly let the 2 rows of cars in front of our cars get around, and then they were closing up the scene. So at this point, we inched up to the ambulance and the car and all the police cars.
Front row seats. Front row seats to the show.
Yeah, front row seats. And they take the man out of the automobile and put his dead body on a stretcher, and cover his body up with the sheet and load him in. And then I start scream crying because this is a horrible thing. I'm probably 10, scream crying. And then I guess I was crying so loud that a policeman heard. Thank you, Drew, for throwing money behind that, for throwing bits behind that. You psycho. The police officer hears me scream crying and sees that a child who clearly is on his way to his first big audition and needs to, can't have that space in his head for that, finally let us go around. I did not book.
He did not book.
I don't think I got it together in time. I did not book. They went in a different direction, probably with a less scream crying child.
A less recently traumatized child got that.
That's right. I was on my way to my first big break, and I saw a dead body instead.
Yeah.
And I did not book.
One of my favorite Alex stories.
Yes. It's one of the reasons I'm insane.
But then, knowing about death and about tragedy, you come to a show with some death and tragedy in it when you're 11.
That's right.
And how did how did you do with like at the young age with the like drugs and the AIDS and all that kind of very adult content? Because I remember that sort of being a thing of like, if you were like 13 or whatever and listening to Rent, it's like, oh, these are like, they're bad. They're like, they're shooting up heroin and shit. Like,
yeah.
Man.
Well, I don't know. I was, I was always exposed to like entertainment, like cultural products, like television and movies, at a younger age, I think, than a lot of peers, because I was an only child, and so my parents were like, okay, we'll watch it with you and then we'll contextualize it. So I don't think I was ever scandalized. Like, I knew about AIDS. I knew what it was. I knew, that some people were addicted to drugs, and it was just like having a horrible disease, and that these people should be pitied.
We love
and
Miss Rue. Shout out to Alex's mom. Shout out to Alex's mom raising him right. And everybody, can I get a trying to find Alex KLINER going in the chat in honor of Miss Rue? So, trying to find Alex KLINER.
Trying to find Alex KLINER. Keep that. Yeah, they'll get there. They'll do it.
It'll happen eventually.
They'll do it. Yeah. It's more on delay. Thank you, Drew. So, and I think it was probably I saw that and I was like, Mom, you must buy me the Rent soundtrack, please, on compact disc, so I can listen to it a zillion times. And then, it was all I ever wanted to listen to. It was so fun and cool, and I ended up seeing it live 7 times, including the only Broadway production I saw. The rest were just touring. Not just touring is an important work to do. But I saw it in New York when Joey Fatone was playing Mark. Joey Fatone of NSYNC.
Yes. Of the NSYNCs.
I did see him do that.
How was it?
It was great. I don't think I liked it. I think I probably was that wasn't the strongest Mark I'd seen, but one of the better ones. Mm-hmm. No offense to Joey Fatone. He's out there doing a remarkable job.
I want to say Lance Bass did a stint as well. And I wonder if there was a Backstreet Boy in there at any point. I think same part. I think Mark as well.
You think out of the interest of fairness, they'd balance out. You know what? They
Who
should
else is he
do
gonna
a revival of Rent with BTS. They should do a K-pop Rent and just get all the K-pop
playing
guys,
the men and the women, just all because there's enough of them. Aren't there 12 of them? What the hell? Too many.
In BTS?
There's too many of them. It's a
crisis. I don't know. I haven't. I'm not hip to it, but I know it is a big deal for the youth. So yeah, I stayed loving it, and I also all the kids in high school who liked musical theater were all hype on it too. It's one of those shows that you put in the first disc and everyone can sing the first disc, and then you put in the second disc and everyone can sing the second disc, and you kind of figure out who's taking what harmonies when you're singing along.
I remember I was not a Rent head, but I had a similar experience in high school that everybody would circle up and then they would sing through the entire first act, but not switching.
You start with December 24th.
Not even switching off parts. Just somebody would start going December 24th, 9 p.m. and then another person would and they would sing it in unison. How long can we go singing every word? It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And I was just I've not seen this show. I haven't listened to it.
And why do you think it missed you? Why do you think that Rent, you found that Rent was not for you?
I think that at the time that it really came out, I was more I liked musicals as a hobby, and I wasn't really thinking about to me the musicals I liked were the funny ones or the ones that had a lot of fun character, and I guess maybe it felt too serious to me, it was going to be too much of a bummer or something. I don't know why, mm-hmm. but and then it was that thing where or maybe it was because I heard Seasons of Love all the time and people would always sing it at chorus concerts and stuff, and I was I'm sick of the song a bit.
I never got to perform Seasons of Love in any sort of choral capacity, so I guess I've just been trying to make up for lost time ever since.
Just that song felt ubiquitous in a way, and I don't know, and it was just kind of, and it wasn't I disliked it. I was just I'm not into that. And then it became a thing of when I did get really into musicals, I was listening to it more for what can I sing at auditions or at a whatever, and I liked some of the songs. But in terms of the musicals I liked, I wanted to be like, actually, have you heard of this guy Jason Robert Brown? Oh boy, like
Okay,
more like, you know, like the more underground, which he wasn't really that. I mean, but like at that time, I mean, he still kind of is. But we'll talk about JRB on another episode. So yeah, I just never.
You were into indie musical theater,
right? But then I eventually, I think, by the end of like high school, I think I had just like listened to enough of it and that I was like, okay. And I remember that I was psyched when the movie came out because I really wanted to like that, because there's a lot of potential in this show as a movie, because like one of the characters is constantly filming everything. It's like really wedded to a time that has a real aesthetic that you could have a lot of fun, like if you wanted to go that direction. But instead they gave it to one of the most unimaginative, just whatever directors, Christopher Columbus, who just like pretended like it was just a drama film with no like music, but like of course they're singing. It was stupid. And then they like changed some of the sung lines to spoken, but it's like it's a sung through show. Like it's weirder to have like 3 scenes where people talk, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
that's just my issue with movie musicals in general the past, however long, since like the 70s, because they just are afraid to actually embrace the magical reality of it all and like really have fun with it being a musical. What are your you saw the movie, right?
Yeah, I went to it, I think. I remember being disappointed by it.
And I remember one time
but I can't...
we ran into Tracy Toms in the Towson Town Center Mall. Right after
I was not
right
there,
after
but
seeing
you guys
it.
did tell me about that.
Yeah, it was right after like the movie had come out too, and we're like, whoa! That was really cool.
Yeah. I will say, I think I don't recall why I was disappointed in it. I think at that point I was probably like, I saw that there were things that were different, and I did not like that. And I had such a high esteem around Rent in the version that I cemented as like a teenager, that that someone would change some of the lines or some of the melodies or whatever was unacceptable to me.
Yeah,
and it didn't do the thing that it does live. And I remember like having my first like truly like transformative like ascendant experiences in like hearing the finale, like finale B, seeing that live and like having those 2 parts broken up, like the Without Yous and the Another Day stuff happening, and like every single bump on my skin was goosed. I was shivering. I was elated. It was yes. At a very young age, I got to have that happen, and there's so much like. Well, and also, especially compared to anything I had heard before, there was so much energy in the music that I did not get from more classical scores. And I couldn't appreciate, like, in my own limited view of, like, what energetic music sounds like. It didn't sound like violins. It didn't sound like cellos. It didn't sound like, it sounded like guitars. It sounded like cool keyboards. It sound, and Rent gave me that.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the big issues I had with the movie, and the big mistake I think it made, is that it used like almost the entire original cast except for 2 parts, and they were all 10 years older, and it
looked weird.
Didn't make sense because these characters are supposed to be young for the most part,
right?
So that was weird, and like. Musical theater, like on stage actors are always like playing like 10 years younger than they are like anyway. Right. So they were probably like already like, like at least some of them. And then, there's Idina Menzel again, like, except now she's like 40 and it's like, okay.
Right.
She might not have been, she was in her late 30s. I don't know. But
regardless, yeah.
Also, I love her, actually, Uncut Gems, she's phenomenal. But
yeah, oh yeah.
For me, well, never mind. we stand a queen of the entire original cast. Especially Daphne Rubin Vega. She's wonderful.
The DRV. Oh yeah.
The one that they did recast. And actually, well, that was part of it, was that the movie, I was like, oh, Rosario Dawson's like good. And it's because she was actually like young and like fit the role well, performed it well. And it was like, imagine if they had like cast some, and like, what a missed opportunity too. And that's like the thing, is like they just want to like recapture the original instead of like, no, like you have an opportunity to like now. And that's the other, now this transitions us into like the last thing I want to talk about with Rent, about sort of how it's aged, its relevance now. And to me, this is what I think Rent really needs, is it needs like a fresh production or like some reinvention in terms of just like a new staging or context or just like something to shake it up. I mean, there were opportunities with the movie and there was an opportunity with the live show, but that was a debacle. Just a debacle. Just one of the all-time worst live TV debacles. Have a fucking understudy.
That young man injured himself.
Have an understudy. Yeah,
I know.
It's not. I know. It offends me as a performer that actors thought they were doing their dress rehearsal and that ended up going to air. Like, even though, of course, they were going full out and they were trying to, but it's like, still, that's like, I don't know. That's fucked up to me. It pisses me off on behalf of those actors.
So I guess I don't know, and I'm curious to hear your thought on this. But Rent to me, and spoiler alert, looking ahead to Book of Mormon,
that's where we're headed,
aren't shows that I think necessarily need to be like reimagined. I think that they like Rent specifically, I think, is a slice of the late 80s, early 90s, and the only way it so many things, not least of all the AIDS crisis and where it was at the time of the action of Rent. Rent is kind of like an extension of the universe of like Tony Kushner, of like Angels in America. Mm-hmm. It is mapping over La Boheme, the opera about another horrible disease to get, but there's so many things about like specific to what was happening in the neighborhoods in Alphabet City, and like it is so New York and so early 90s, late 80s in its scope that I don't know what you would do aside from present it as such.
So one of my issues here is that listening to it, and I was listening to some tracks again today to kind of just like refresh my mind of my Rent thoughts, is like hearing them talk about La Vie Boheme and about like No Day But Today and their young idealism and stuff. I can't help but escape. These people fucking lost. We know what New York turned to. New York turned to a land of nothing but bennies. Okay, it's bennies. Yeah. Yeah. Benny's from the Bay to the Atlantic.
Benny at the end was a class trader. Was a class trader.
Which is another thing. Another thing I don't like about the show is that it does try to just like make them all angelic, and it's like, let Benny be an asshole. Let him like still. Yeah. I mean, why do we have to redeem Benny? Like, you can give reasoning for him.
There is no Benny anymore. The person who would own their building is like, I don't know, Chase Bank.
Right.
Like, they would be, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be like some guy who wants to open like a VR co-op. He invented WeWork. It's just something that Benny is not given enough credit for. He wanted to create a state-of-the-art virtual film studio.
That dude was like, he like one day was like watching the movie Rent on TV or something. He's like, oh wow, and he changed channels and he just to hear Benny's plan, and he was like, oh fuck, and he like wrote it down. Yep. And I think I think the Larson estate should step in, and they should.
Yeah, they own a piece of WeWork, which is probably now just debt at this point. But
yeah, actually, you know what? It's more trouble than it's worth. Larson estate, don't do it.
Don't do it. You don't need to. Yeah, I don't know how you would have to like totally.
But I don't want. I'm not talking about modernizing it. No, don't get me wrong here. I'm always talking like it is a period piece now. It like, And it kind of was even at the time that it came out, because it's
Absolutely.
like it was like just past that, because like now Giuliani's there and all that, and it's like the Disney's in Times Square and all that shit, and like Beauty and the Beast has opened, and so it's like already like all this is changing,
right.
But like I just mean that like every production kind of looks the same, it like feels the same, like the staging is
the first decision,
right, and that's what I'm talking about, is just somebody like just taking a whole fresh like perspective on the whole thing, keep it true to the story it's telling and the time and all of that, like don't mess with any of that. But I'm just saying, just like and I actually liked some of the choices in the live TV presentation, but it was just, you know, screwed over. And it's still, and even then, even if it would have been done perfectly, there was just as much that I thought was kind of stupid. But yeah, so that's more what I'm saying, is I just want somebody to just like give a fresh, and like have it fresh, like it's sort of the same way that I really want to direct a production of Hair that kind of does the same thing, that like has an eye towards knowing what happened after without like pointing it out too heavily or anything, but just sort of highlighting those kind of foreshadowing almost moments of like knowing what's going to happen. And it's like the same thing with Hair, right? Like for me, like that generation also kind of lost. I mean, like wars didn't stop. We're still doing wars. I guess they stopped the draft, which is all it was really about. We can go off on that tangent if we want, but yeah, and that was part of what it was going back and revisiting the Rent script and score. You just like a lot of these, like the privilege that is there even amongst the characters, and like sort of the way that they sort of talk about race and stuff, like at the time is supposed to be counterculture transgressive, but like there's enough in there that you could, without like changing the intent of the show, have the black characters not feel necessarily great about how they're constantly being othered in the show or whatever, but like still perform it and still kind of feel, you know, like and that's what I'm talking about with Rent, is knowing that they failed. Like this is, and because Rent has such a saccharine sweet ending for me, I don't like that Mimi comes back to life. Very controversially, one production at our alma mater after we graduate, she did not come back to life for at least one or two performances before the aforementioned Larson estate said, no, you will not be changing the ending to
the correct decision.
The ending to the show. The ending to our show. But to be fair, I like that ending more, because I don't like that it's because it's false. And nothing else about and not nothing else, but so much else about the show is unflinching. Like even the numbers like people don't like, right, like Contact, but that is in there to really like show this gritty kind of reality and this dark reality, and then it pulls back at the end and just goes all happy. And I wish, and so that's sort of what I'm talking about, is if somebody to do it again with like that new perspective, knowing that not only do these people lose, but like the world goes to shit too. It's like bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, because if you think about it, like the people that Rent is describing, so like especially in its like class dynamics, right? So you have all these like poor and marginalized people, you know, squatting in this place. Like those people would end up like where it was in New York at that time. Those people would have ended up being like, oh, after squatting in, you know, this impossibly expensive brick loft, I lost my home and got a settlement from the people buying it, and then I started some abusive tech company in Silicon Valley. Right. And now I contribute to the gig economy, and I'm voting no on Prop 22 or whatever, or voting yes, whatever.
Mark's a line producer for Fox News now. Roger does. He wrote the Cars for Kids theme song. Like, I mean, like, actually, maybe that's a bad example because that's a charity, but some jingle. Like or something, like they all sold out.
Yeah, he started like an online guitar lessons scam, and he gets away with collecting $50 a lesson and pays out the teachers $20.
Maureen definitely has an Etsy page, no doubt. Oh my god, my cat is making the most noise. Stop it, both of you. We got cats. We got cats wanting to be heard here.
Folks, we got cats.
Well, that's our signal, because we're gonna go to our intermission here real quick. We've been talking for a while. We're gonna go a little bit long with this one, but I mean, it's fine. It won't be too bad. So stick around, folks. We'll be back in like 5-ish minutes. And please don't touch that internet dial.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a party! Look at him. We got a party. We're no longer doing My Favorite Musical. I gotta lose that graphic. So that was our comprehensive Rent discussion. I feel good about that, Alex. That was good. Good Rent chat.
Yeah. Good, very good chatting Rent. Looking forward to seeing whatever version that show takes in the future.
Yeah, my production is going to be awesome. Just as I say, an absolutely indispensable, iconic member of the canon. It's one of those shows that I say it's like you can like it or hate it, but it is immortal. Like it's going to be.
But you simply cannot ignore it.
Right. Yeah. So moving on, in our next show. Actually, this is kind of similar to the Kate Stream in that we talk about like a classic show that ran on Broadway for a while, and then, never mind. And then we talk about a currently running, was currently running show on Broadway. That's like a mega hit that's been running for a long time. And the show that I chose because we have watched our share of South Park together. The bigger, longer, uncut movie is a favorite of both of ours.
Yes.
And you had seen this show live. I had not. And I hadn't heard
I've seen it twice.
And actually, this actually comes back to the thanks for the follow, Barf Tavda, I think. I
think that's my friend. That's my friend Rashawn.
Thanks,
Rashawn. Is that you? Are you in the chat?
It's fine. Don't call him out. I don't want to make him anxious now. He's gonna like run away.
Well, Rashawn is a wonderful young woman, but go
my gosh, I'm so sorry. See, look.
Hey, it is Shawnee. Okay, good.
I'm so sorry.
She's the best.
She is the best.
Oh yeah.
This reminded me that one of the reasons that I never got on board with Rent is I always kind of figured that I would see Rent live, and then I would get it, and I would love it. I knew I would love it if I saw it live, and I don't think I've ever seen it. I've never seen it live staged. I've seen the movie. I've seen listened to it a bunch. But I've never actually seen a production. But then this show came to me in a vision, a slime tutorial vision. So it started by teaching me slime, and it was just psychically sent in. This is how I saw it, even though I'd never seen it. And I was like, how am I going to talk about a musical I've never seen? And then Thespis, of course, everyone knows the Greek god of theater. Or is it Roman? I don't know. Sorry, Robin Quick. He channeled it. One of the final previews, I think, of the original Broadway cast, Andrew Rannells, Josh Gad, Rory O'Malley, all of them, then I saw the whole thing. It was from a mezzanine or second balcony. Pretty good. It was subtitled, this vision. So I finally, so after never hearing it or seeing it, saw it for the first time today. And I really liked it. That's my take.
Yeah. I also really enjoy Book of Mormon. I think it is incredibly well done. I think the music is fantastic. The decisions of what to make sung, and where in the experience. Yeah, Book of Mormon, great show. And obviously I'm very sympathetic to some of the criticism about it. Absolutely.
And I think it's fair.
In terms of, of course it's fair, but it's also this is another show that I was they just did an interview with Josh Gad, and they, it was he was like, I wouldn't come back to the show in its current form. Like, he thinks that it needs something. And I'm like, well, maybe that thing is to retire the show. Like, can we wrap our heads around putting so much effort?
Sorry, my cats are knocking shit over again. It's fine. It's fine. My cats are just knocking over everything in my apartment. This is the first stream that they have done this. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
they're making their opinion known. They're not. They didn't like Book of
What
Mormon.
do you think? They didn't like Book of Mormon.
My cats didn't, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, here, like, the thing about South Park is, and I agree with the criticisms of Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I do think that, like, their point of view, especially in the context of today, is like far too a little like comfortable white libertarian, a little too easily dismissive of like genuine offense and hurt, and I think a little careless in the direction their punches swing. However, they are like the last of like not the last, but they're of a school of satire that I absolutely like am refreshed by. And it's a brutal honesty, and it's not an eye towards infinity in terms of the shelf life of their material. They react to things. They're reactionary in that sense. Like, they react to cultural moments and political moments, using like the breadth of commentary acceptable, like the extreme of the acceptable commentary of the time, right? So like, they say the edgiest thing that would have been acceptable in that moment, and then usually like a year, not even later, it seems like horrific that anyone would have ever said this, or anyone would have ever expressed a thought this way.
Well,
and you know, that's what to me the Book of Mormon is, although it's not really dealing with subject matter that is timely.
Well, yeah, and I think that that's sort of why the show is revolutionary at first, because it's like all these children saying these really foul-mouthed, horrible things, and it's like, oh my god, can you even believe, you know, it's like instantly just like bad taste is like in the foreground kind of thing. To me, I think where they are almost more successful is in the... and it's funny because I was doing a bit of dramaturgy, and by which I mean I read the Wikipedia page for Book of Mormon. And
that is dramaturgy, yes.
Yeah, and something that Scott Rudin did, of course, mega producer, possible octopus evil man, I don't know. He's way too wealthy, and I would want to know what he tastes like in a fictional work of parody. But he said that... they were originally going to open the show off Broadway to like test it out there, because they figured it was like, you know, I don't know, like bad taste, or I don't know why. And then he was like, no, we're going to open it right on Broadway because these guys work better with high pressure. And I think that like the high degree of difficulty stuff that they've done, which I would say is the Bigger, Longer, and Uncut Movie, Team America, World Police, and then this show, because they take so much time and consideration for every decision, and everything affects everything. And so you have to be extremely intentional with that. And I think that that's almost, it's very different. And so both with like, you know, a marionette movie and then making music, like making a full musical, which they'd done with Cannibal, like way back when they were first starting. Yeah. But like, so they had, and so they have affection for the form, but to really like make a complete show that's like you're trying to make legit is extremely tough. And Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is just an incredible film. Like in terms of like
Bigger, Longer, and Uncut,
how it's structured,
holds up better today. Made in the 99 or whatever, better today than the Book of Mormon does.
To me, it's like...
Because
it's
Bigger,
almost...
Longer, and Uncut also deals a tremendous amount with, like, moral panic.
And it's almost the perfect...
That has been a well that you can go back to more often, I think, than what the Mormons are doing.
It's like the platonic ideal of, like, what South Park is at its best, kind of, I think, is the movie. Where I think... And then... the other Trey Parker and Matt Stone thing that's really a very good watch, and I recommend, is the 6 Days to Air, or what I think that's what it's called, the documentary about the making of a South Park episode. That's a very fascinating process, but I also think that, especially as they've gotten more comfortable in that process and like, you know, whatever, and that their politics haven't necessarily evolved maybe, or their sense of the show's audience or whatever, but I feel like they have more often reverted, and something that this show has, and those other things have, is a real affection for all the characters, kind of, and just like really like actually like they, you know, they want you to like the characters, and they do too. You feel that they do too, and so often in especially the more recent seasons of South Park, I feel that the kind of not even the main characters, but sort of they just invent sort of straw men for the rest of it, kind of, and it's like the comedy is just very and it's directed to that kind of white libertarian audience, and that's always who it's kind of going to resonate with the most. And I think it's it's also very much a class thing, and it's the thing of who this show could potentially offend is devout Mormons who aren't going to come see a profane musical by the South Park guys, so they're not going to see it. It's like making a, you know, movie making fun of the Amish or something. You're good. They're not going to, like, they don't watch those. Right. But and then the other one, of course, is having this very I don't know how we want to put it, very stereotypical view of Africa and Africans. You know,
well, Uganda specifically, yeah.
Right, Uganda, and very much and I think, you know, the show is making a satirical point of the way that white America and Mormons and, you know, Christian missionaries in general might view other cultures in that kind of a way.
Yes.
But at the same time, to see issues like female genital mutilation or AIDS, you know, very actually really serious issues in Africa, be kind of, you know, just used as sort of punchline fodder, even though I don't think,
right,
like,
I don't think it
it's
white savior.
You're right, and it's satirizing that white savior. I mean, that's one of my favorite songs is I Am Africa, because I think that's really clear satire, and I mean the fact that they call out Bono by name in it and stuff is like, that's great.
Yes, well, and that's the thing, right? It's like, yeah, specifically I Am Africa, I noticed that is when literally the whole, like, all white male cast of these missionaries are like, they went through the pains to, like, the detail, and they swapped out their black ties for white, like the ceremonial white ties. These people are head to toe mayonnaise, doing mayonnaise dances and singing I Am Africa. And yeah, I don't think that's where, like, the true problematic stuff that is a little harder to defend lies, but it's like, you have to see it on its own terms, and like they are drawing an infinite attention to this.
Right.
But when I watched the slime, when I had the same slime telemutation,
yeah, we shared the vision
in there.
We were both in there.
I did notice the audience, which I'm sure for 2011 or whatever was largely wealthy, whiter, and older.
Definitely wealthy. If they're seeing a show on Broadway, especially Book of Mormon, like, revolutionized ticket pricing, actually, because they said for more full shows we make the price more expensive, and that changed. Like, Broadway ticketing hasn't gone back, so it's another thing it did. Sorry, didn't interrupt you.
No, I was gonna say, like, I did notice that there was including the person who was surmising the vision. You could always tell when they laugh. Because of their proximity to the vision.
Right. We were seeing through their eyes. Right.
Laughing a little too, like, laughing at stuff that I didn't think was the funniest stuff, and was some of the more low-hanging, and then, like, just, like, crass shit. You know, like that Elder Cunningham can never get her name right.
Yeah,
or you have a scrotum full of maggots.
Of all the jokes, that one almost ages the worst. It's not fun.
Right, because
it's also just like an old joke. It's like not like that joke is in musicals of like and like other like you can't get the name right. I don't know.
Right. And the other thing is like if you look at the way that, and I wish that they had more thought to make this. I mean, this is by 2020 rules, right? But I wish that they had taken the time to more obviously draw, because I'm super into cults and new religions and stuff like that. So I know a little bit about, Mormonism from, an objective like perspective, but like that the way that their own origin story is exactly one of this colonization that they're doing in Uganda. Like, I wish they had taken a little bit more care to protect themselves from these criticisms by drawing attention to the fact that the way when white colonists go to, a developing nation and try to, get them to join their religion is like literally how they describe like their interactions with natives and brown people and stuff like that. So like,
I think the end is
an actual belief. Yeah.
The end is, I think, meant to do that. Spoilers for the end of Book of Mormon. They make a new book Book of Arnold, which is the Josh Gad character, and it's very funny, because he's kind of like made up his own version of the stories that he's told, that because he's never actually read the book. It's like really good, like funny character details, so it is kind of like. Then they are doing, like, they are almost continuing, like, they're the most Mormon because they are doing the actual Mormon thing, like, to your point. Like, I found that to be one of the very fun story choices, and it made it, like, because musicals famously often suffer from second act problems, which is that the first act is great. It usually has a big finishing at the beginning. You get the whole story, and then the second act has to kind of tie everything back together, and it can sort of start to feel like box checking, and every musical sort of suffers from this a bit, except for last week's musical Sweeney Todd, which is a perfect Swiss watch, has no flaws,
yes.
You can
tell the musical is good because of how well it efficiently gets through the things it needs to.
Well, I mean, how organically, like, it feel like that's satisfying in the storytelling.
Yeah.
And so I thought that having that sort of not like full twist of an ending really, really helped that. I did enjoy that. But back to the sort of who this, like, the audience sort of question, and like what you were saying of what audience is enjoying this, is I think that that's sort of the thing is, it's like, yeah, I've grown up like literally since I was actually the age of the South Park kids watching South Park, and so this is kind of comedy is old hat to me, and like I know it very well, and so to me, I'm watching it, and even when they're making jokes about female genital mutilation or everybody having AIDS, which also is a nice little like it's kind of also a reference to Team America, I think, a bit, the pointing like people like and like saying things like everybody has AIDS, which again, because Team America made a parody of Rent, and we're full circle. We are full.
Well, first time is a flat circle.
It is, but like, so me laughing, I'm like, I know that this is just them being edgy, but like, for the people that would be their reality, or that they are connected to the work that's happening around AIDS in Africa, or female genital mutilation, or these really serious issues, those people like aren't going to have access to see a Broadway show for the most part, like they aren't, because it's such a like a wealthy thing. And so that is the part that does sort of stick in my stomach, is not like the show is coming from a bad place. Like I said, I think they have affection for the characters. Another subversion that the show does at the end is the having all the villagers, the people in the town, say that, oh, we knew that he was lying the whole time. Like, basically saying it was the white people assuming that they were ignorant, but they're like, no, these are metaphors. Like, they understood. And so that, like, they have things like that. But yeah, there is just that element that will always kind of, even as I am enjoying it, still I will be uncomfortable on a certain level that this is for me and who is it not for, kind of thing.
Right. But that said, I think it does a good job skewering. Yeah, I mean, it's actually, no, I don't know. I think it's maybe a little less satirical than Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, in that they have chosen to frame the entire thing around, like, yeah, obviously, they've already done their love letter to Mormonism in that South Park episode. They're clearly, they have a lot of...
And they're almost like evoking, they're like evoking it at times, I think, in some of the visions of Joseph Smith and stuff. It really evokes the classic, like, that South Park episode.
But I will say, like, from like a carefree, I don't want to say edgelord, but like from a carefree transgressive perspective, how beautiful is it that they were able to, like, put these big stupid ideas using the mechanics of musical theater, like to have, you know, Spooky Mormon Hell Dream, or to have, you know, like, I don't know, it's there's like a huge sense of fun in it.
Well, and that's something
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was talking about this with Abby earlier when we were watching it, but there's something that, and of course I'm coming from a very privileged place when I say this, so like I just acknowledge that completely. But there is something about when it's material this transgressive, this, you know, like intentionally offensive, really, that when it is performed live and the live performer is engaged in it like that. And they are clearly having fun, and they are clearly in on the joke, and they are playing at the joke. Like, that is sort of a kind of permission. Now, I would be interested to hear perspectives of people who performed the show, how they felt, if they, like, I definitely want to know. And there's a lot of criticism already out there from when the show came out, of people like scholars that, you know, both of race and of all kinds of people much smarter than I, that critiqued it from that point of view. But I would want to know that. But there is a sense that when it's and the other thing is, the show, and like one of my other favorite running jokes is that they literally have only one cultural touch point for Africa, and it's the Lion King. And so they're constantly just, everything is the Lion King. And that's amazing, both also from a musical theater perspective, because like when you talk about shows that could feature this many black actors before Hamilton and before this, like, and always running, and actors that, like, by the script have to be black, you know, those was Lion King. And like in terms of long running show, like, that's it. And so I'm sure that a lot of these actors, you know, if this wasn't their first show, probably had a stint in Lion King, you know, a lot of these performers. And so it's funny then that, like, and that's a statement about, like, Disney and sort of like how white people filter in, like, the information. And so the show is also playing off the white savior narrative and the like that kind of classic musical like kind of trope as well. There's a bit of actually Music Man in here, because it's the, like, coming to a town and, like, telling the lies or whatever and getting people excited. Yeah. But so it's that sort of classic thing, but it's then taking apart, you know, like this very I don't know, like it's dealing ultimately with questions of, like, faith and belief, and, like, I think it asks about, like, being culturally religious, like the way that people say that, you know, that they're not maybe practicing you know, in Judaism, but they feel culturally tied to their religion. And I think that that's sort of like this show's kind of what it's about what it means to be of your faith and to live that faith, and it's doing that in a, you know, a fun way. I do think that it treats some of the characters a bit as props, even as it likes them towards that, but the show, I think, is, because it's satirizing that story, like, that's a bit intentional, that it is oversimplified because it's from that point of view, I guess.
Right. Yeah, because I'm even trying to think here, like, does the Book of Mormon, like, it is the central story? You could kind of like glimpse at it and expect that the relationship between Elders Price and Cunningham, it's their story, right? Like typically when you write something, you're looking at the relationships, right? And I don't think that they even develop it that much. I like everyone hits beats.
Yeah, their relationship is kind of perfunctory.
Huge transformation.
Yeah, even when they kind of come together, right? It's really because this is the beat in the musical. We do that. It's kind of like Urinetown-y in that way, where it's like, no, but this is the part of the musical where this part, like this song happens or this plot beat happens. You're right.
Right. So like, yeah, I just think it's meant to be fun. It's meant to have slight jabs and the whole thing parodies and satires throughout. But it doesn't land on any huge, I think, like moral observations.
Yeah, and in fact, that's my other big critique, I'd say, of it. This was something else I found in my dramaturgy, was that people assumed when it came out that the Mormon Church was going to be furious, that they were going to protest. That was going to be like so controversial. And like Mormons, like they like put out a statement when it came out and was like, this isn't, it's just all fun and parody, but this isn't accurate or blah blah blah. And if anything, they were offended about the presentation of Mormons as like telling fairy tales, like living in like a kind of fairy tale reality type of thing, and they thought that was like unfair. But actually, over time, they've come to actually almost like appreciate it. They advertise in the playbill for it, and they say like they put stuff like you've seen the musical, now read the book, is what they've like put advertised in the playbill.
Right.
And Josh Gad was asked about this in an interview, and he said, people ask if anybody like if you ever heard from Mormons who were offended or upset, and he said, no, not only have I never heard from a Mormon who's been upset, I've heard from multiple people who saw the show and then went and looked up, read the Book of Mormon and converted. And that, to me, is problematic.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah. That doesn't seem like the
and the other thing is
consequence.
That Josh Gad is like almost like proud of that. And like I understand the show doesn't want to like dislike the characters or think that or judge them for their faith. In fact, it's like I said, a show about like why that's valuable and why it's something to support in community or whatever almost. But like, yeah, I don't know how somebody would see the show and then land that, but reading that factoid kind of gave me pause, and I don't know why totally, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to blame the show. It's just something that kind of, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, so if the show isn't about necessarily any single one of the characters, and it certainly to me is not, like they give Elder Price his humility. He starts with this high estimation of himself.
Well, what's cool about it
is about religion,
right,
and the evolution,
and that's what's cool to me about it is it starts off you thinking it's Elder Price's story, and then at a certain point he kind of leaves the scene, and then it becomes Elder Cunningham's story, and the girl's name, who I actually am not remembering, but I'm not going to do a stupid hack joke about it.
They didn't repeat it enough.
Right, because they only ever say the not her name, so I don't know what her actual name is. And really, she is actually pretty prominent throughout. And
I'm looking it up, so
she's also the only one of the actors who won a Tony, so shout out to her. Nominees were Rannells, Gad, and Rory O'Malley for supporting actor, and he's the one gay missionary who's really funny. Rory O'Malley and Andrew Rannells both have had stints as King George in a show that is banned to talk about in our chat.
Well, it's not banned. Yeah, you just shouldn't.
But I think that by the end, it becomes about the community. Like, I really do think it like actually becomes about all of them, like, and all the missionaries and all the people, and like, and it did kind of really was an uplifting ending, like the fact that they're actually now like pushing this new religion they invented. I was like, I love this for the end of this show. And it was, and it kind of put them each on equal footing almost, right? Because now they're like all like just in this new Book of Arnold or whatever together. And it was like, I don't know, it's like a new thing that they created. So there's enough really going to it that, yeah, some jokes don't age great. I mean, like this show, I don't know if it could have come out 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah. And I don't think it necessarily should be done again.
Well, and
I mean, I think it should be okay for things to just like happen.
Well, and this brings me,
and then like I hope they write another one.
Yeah, and this brings me to another Robert Lopez, the composer. I haven't talked about him yet. Truly one of the most prolific composers of this century. I mean, you look at what he's done. Like the shows that he's done have been huge. He's a double EGOT. He's won each of them twice. Okay, this guy is like, and he did it. He won his EGOT in the shortest span of time anyone's won it, and at the youngest age anyone's won it. So, in case you don't know, Robert Lopez first came like to fame, actually, and this is the show I want to talk about, it with Avenue Q, which, again, at the time was like, oh my gosh, it's like Sesame Street puppets, like swearing, like how subversive. And today, there's like nothing like less shocking to me than especially, and it is so locked into, it's like Bush administration time, like, you know, like from like 2004... 2000, I think it was like 2004, like that time period and then perspective, and like everyone's a little bit racist has aged terribly as a song, especially because it's a song about actually letting yourself off for feeling racist. It's not a song about like we all have whatever. And of course, it's a comedy, but like, there's just a lot in it, and it's not just that, and it's not from a offensive point of view as much as, I mean, some of it is probably, but it's also
it's careless.
Well, and it's also that it's like so much time has passed. It's like it doesn't even make sense to do it now. Like, there's my girlfriend who lives in Canada. It's like, dude, just like come out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like what? Yeah. It's like not the same. Impact to have a closeted character and like puppet sex and things like that, like, and and so that's another Robert Lopez. But it's such a hard skill, and and this is something writing a comedy song, because you almost don't want the song to draw too much attention because you want to hear the lyrics. So you want it to be, but you want it to be catchy, right? You want it in your ear. It's such a specific vibe you're going for, and there was one review that I saw quoted in the Wikipedia from Wall Street Journal saying that the composition, like the music's nothing special. It's like nothing super memorable in it, or like revolutionary from like music, like a composer standpoint. But I'm like, but that's, if it was like, it supports the lyric, like the jokes. It's perfect at supporting the jokes. The music.
Yeah, I think one thing that I can relate to, having written a lot of music for, like comedy purposes, for like sketch reviews, not for, not like, I mean, I've written comedy musicals, but, like sketch, it has a huge, the composer's style does not have a place, like it is less important than writing the music that serves the tone and the comedy of the song. So like sonically, Book of Mormon's kind of all over the place, in that there is a lot of reference to like the way that the voices are harmonized.
A lot of references to Lion King. It's there's a lot of
tons of I mean, it was a touch point. I would say, like a touch point, like all of those,
and it helps
we get to
that
Uganda,
that is still live on Broadway, like that, and Julie Taymor, shout out, like talking about an iconic staging of a musical. It doesn't matter if you've seen it, you know what the live Lion King musical looks like. So yeah, so they can reference that very easily. Right.
But like Man Up is a much more like Trey Parker and Matt Stone sounding song, with like even the like vocal affectations within it. Man,
like America, even a little it's like, right, yeah.
which is almost a little hat tip to Adam Pascal and Rent, maybe. But
that is
the Roger voice, the gravel rock singer voice. Yeah, like, yeah, I think I couldn't disagree with that more. I think that the music in that show is superb.
Yeah,
it's light years beyond Avenue Q.
And to the extent that they serve the jokes, like, it doesn't matter to me, is the song the most revolutionary, like, you know, Sondheim-esque kind of intricate layering or whatever. I'm like, the jokes and the big moments hit, and they hit well, and this music really serves that. I mean, the show that they put on in the second act is truly, like, insanely hilarious. Like, it is so funny. And I don't remember how the music goes, like, right now, having only heard it the once. I couldn't sing it for you now, but I am visualizing and I see the moments because, like, it is just, and I can remember the jokes.
Right.
There's maggots in my scrotum, by the way.
Looking at the
that's just unrelated, but there is
second act play.
There are maggots in my scrotum. Just, it's unrelated.
Yeah, I mean, and that shit. Yeah, that's like, to me, the least successful shit. Like, there's so many, like, more insightful, hilarious moments than just casually referencing the fact that, you know, like, people in rural, poor parts of Africa have a disproportionate amount of AIDS.
I agree, but I also see the value of a non sequitur line, which, and I think that it's the treating it as the non sequitur that's problematic, obviously.
Yeah,
but it coming back at unexpected time. I mean, that's a comic trick that always makes me laugh.
Sure, yeah.
It unexpectedly coming back.
But I was just going to say, compositionally, if you're talking about that second act play they do for the, you know, the president of the mission or whatever, like, I really, it's mostly just like a solid rhythm, and they sing on top of it. Like, there isn't a lot of, I mean, they have these vocal lines that they do in unison and stuff, but I think it's probably deliberately, there's not a lot of chord changes or harmonic changes. I think because it's meant to just sit on top of it.
It's supposed to have that, like, school play or, like, church pageant feel to it, like, very thrown together, you know, like skit that you're doing at the camp talent show or whatever, like, and that's part of what makes it so great, and that how earnest they are, and, like, how much they, like, they're selling that they're just like, and that was part of what really also made me just be like, yeah, this is a great show, is just, again, how much you can tell the performers love getting to, like, do these jokes, like the fuck you God kind of stuff. Like, they are just being able to, like, sing that, like, early on in a show. Like, they're like, okay, this is the first song that's gonna really slap the audience with, like, something extreme.
Yeah.
And, like, you can see how much fun they're having with that. It's great.
Fuck you God in the ass, mouth, and cunt. Like, yes. I mean, like, it's right there for that reason.
Yeah.
And another thing about the lyrics that have been set to music, unlike perhaps a Sondheim show, and I think that Trey Parker and Matt Stone and a lot of people write this way, and, like, typically when I write music, it's more this style, is they're singing, they're not singing in abstracts. Like, so I feel like sometimes, like, you know, like, Sondheim will use words and music together to paint a beautiful picture about something ephemeral, like an emotion. Like, these are more straightforward songs that get very clear information out that drives things forward.
Or, like, I am communicating this
for jokes.
I'm communicating this message to you. Like, turn it off.
Right.
Like, it's like, this is the message of that kind of thing. Or, like, yeah.
Right.
Well, I thought it was a great show. I think, yeah, it's wonderful. I agree with you that should we just let it go? And this is the last thing I want to talk about with this show. Is there going to be a movie one day? Should there be? Will it be received okay? What should happen? Because, I mean, part of what I love about musicals is that they can live forever. But when it comes to topical, although this, and I think this is better than Avenue Q because it's not so trying to be topical and current. It is more satirizing this religion in ways that I don't think the ways that it skewers the Mormon Church, I don't think are really gonna go out of style necessarily, or be less relevant. But the view of and the treatment of those African characters, I mean, from a writer's standpoint, is it enough that people can be like me and have the issues, but still be sold by the performers and by the ending and things like that? Or does the show just stop happening, and then what? How do people watch it? Should it just...
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it happening. Like, I don't see I mean, that's not to say that no one's ever going to do it. I just don't see a universe where I could comfortably say, yeah, making the Book of Mormon into a movie in 2020 is a good, smart decision.
I mean, it will sell.
Yeah, it will sell, but it'll also just be another, like, you know, culture pariah, or something to get mad about on the internet. And I don't think that,
and the thing is, and if they soften any of the sort of, to Josh Gad's point about some jokes that he would want to change or things like that, and if they did things like that, then that would also create an uproar of like, well, you defanged it, doesn't, and maybe it wouldn't work as well if it wasn't as irreverent and as just being bad taste constantly. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking about this when I was having the vision of it put through my head via the slime tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I think maybe the way that what they should have done, easy to point fingers now, what they should have done is just kept it all contemporaneous to, it should just be the telling of the westward expansion of the Mormons during that time, or put it in the time of like the Angel Moroni and stuff like that, so that you could see, because I do think that, like,
well, and
the thing with the Mormon religion is, like, there is this sense of, like, them taming the savages, and that is, like, throughout the Mormon religion and the mythos and the history of the Mormon religion. And they really
don't go into that at all. They really, in the show.
They don't. They map it over it by putting it into, like, Uganda and saying, look at all these things that these people in this developing nation have to deal with.
And they could get away with that. And they could get away with that more if they found a way to. And I think, and where it's tough is you want to convey the information to the audience that they were actually like horrible to natives and things like that, like when they were doing their expansion.
Yes, and they literally believed up until 1978 that people with black skin are being punished by God.
Well, and they do reference that in the show, which I'm very glad about as well. Yes. And they reference it a couple of times, too.
Yes, and I believe was an amazing joke vessel.
Right.
Because you return back to that refrain,
and it starts very, like, I believe that the Lord God loves all of us, or whatever it is. Like, it starts very anodyne, like, religious song. And it sounds... Yes, and probably why you love it is it sounds like a contemporary Christian... Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then just the small arrangement decision to say, okay, I believe that God lives on a planet called Kolob or whatever it's called, and I believe that Jesus has his own planet as well, and they have the entire company come in on that just to underscore it. I mean, it is very comedy forward. They are joke machine songs. They are not trying to get you to imagine imagery. They're not trying to paint an emotion. They are there to tell jokes, which is why none of the characters are developed, but all of the parts are great.
Yeah, like even though they're not developed, it would be
so much fun to do.
And they're almost like paper dolls that are just like literally the paper cutouts, right, of like South Park. It's almost like that level of depth.
Yes.
But like I said, they have affection for the characters. Like they want you to like the characters. And so I think it's a really successful show. It's a complicated show. I'm glad that we got into it here. We went really long tonight, but Alex, I'm so glad to have you here. For the people that are still have stuck with us, this has been great. I truly thank you. Alex also does our music for. I forgot to mention that in the intro, Alex. Fuck. Okay, and you helped me write your own intro. That's right. Alex did our amazing music. Just the best. My bestie, best. Could talk to you all night. My voice is starting to go. So
yeah,
but I will hype next week. I do have our guest, and I'm very excited. Next week, our guest will be the very, very funny, amazing Joan Haley Ford. We are going to be talking about Carrie the musical, another show I haven't seen, so hopefully I get another psychic vision or something. But and not only have I not seen Carrie the musical, but I haven't seen Carrie the movie, so I'm going to watch both for the first time.
Oh, you got to watch it.
And then I'm going to try to talk about spooky musicals next month, with the exception of the week after next, when we are doing the Franklin Shepherd Ink Off, me and Harrison, and probably doing something else on that episode, talking about it with him as well. So those are the next 2 weeks. I really want to get a bulletin board and blue and pink index cards so I can do like the SNL, how they announce the host and musical guest. So I'm going to do that with the the guest and then what musicals we'll be talking about. It's too much work. So if somebody has a bulletin board and index cards, DM me or something. You can help me do my upcoming shows announcements. Alex, thank you for being here again.
My absolute pleasure.
This has been great. I have been Lord Gugu. Follow Alex on Twitter and go to his website and hire him, give him money, just Venmo him. You know, why not?
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for being here. And until next week, musicals are good. Bye.